people. Welcome to the Peaceful Podcast, where we explore the minds of incredible activists who are creating a safer world for animals, which happens to encourage a sustainable and peaceful world for everyone. Today, we are joined by the 40-year-old vegan who you can find on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at the 40-year-old vegan. So let's get started. What is your name exactly, other than the 40-year-old vegan, if you'd like to share it?
Yeah, it's actually I normally put my handle down on the bottom, so it's David Magna, and yeah, I think we had some issues getting started, but I'm thrilled to be here, and Paige, I really appreciate all you're doing. I really enjoyed the recent video you did with Elwood's dog meat, and I remember the it was the guy's reaction. One of the guys that was walking by, he didn't even stop. And he was like, "What the hell?" He just kind of walked away. That had me giggling and laughing. So I really appreciate you doing this and getting the message out there to people.
Thank you. Yes, I love using humor. I feel like so many people are attracted to humor online. And so anything that we can use to get attention, I think is a win for the animals. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
My first question for you is, when did you first go vegan?
Yeah, so that was about 11 years ago, 11, 12 years ago. I started really contemplating veganism, looking, I think it was more into plant-based dieting at first because I didn't really understand the concept of veganism or what it meant or what sort of things you would do to inspire others to change. It was more or less me trying to figure out, okay, can I eat something different? And am I going to be missing something? And I had all these ideas that I might not get the nutrients or something that I need. I didn't know what it was, but I just felt that there might be something I might be missing. And, 11 years later, I'm still trying to find that thing that I'm going to be missing. So,
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? How that works. So, what realizations were triggered and during that time, which caused you to go vegan, and what exactly caused those realizations?
yeah, it's a great question, Paige. And I think, there's the light bulb moment we all talk about when it kind of just hit us and when it struck us. I think it was over a course of time. As you might be aware, and I know some others might be aware, that I used to work in animal agriculture. I used to be a federal inspector. I used to work in slaughterhouses, and I saw things that no one should ever have to see or be a part of, witness, including the animals or people. So there was a few things that kind of just hit home. I had worked in these places for a long time, and I was removed from them due to getting ill, and then I sort of delved back into the same sort of I guess you could say environment, but it was outside the slaughterhouse. So it was in something called animal health. And my job was to review these files of extreme animal abuse. And so that would include me watching videos and watching or seeing photos, hearing descriptions of inspectors, going to these facilities and seeing what was taking place, because part of the role of the government was, well, is supposed to be to go after these bad players, bad actors. However, I didn't see anything being done, and the more I saw, the more it hit me and struck me, and yeah, it sticks with me. And so I was really struggling for a long time, a number of years actually, and still sometimes. I've got a good support system now, but yeah, that was kind of the light bulb moment for me. And I didn't know, other than not wanting to be a part of it, I didn't know how to start or where to go, but I just expressed that to my partner at the time, and she helped me, you know, look into vegetarianism, and then eventually I knew what happened with dairy and eggs, and went into veganism or plant-based dieting, and
Yeah,
really started to shift the way I thought about how I was lied to, how this industry makes up these ideas that we have to use, and that we have to do this or be a part of this. I never heard of the word veganism, and I don't think a lot of people in my area or my field ever heard of that word. And it's almost embarrassing to say. And, obviously, that first day that I walked into a slaughterhouse, it sticks with me. And if you do a little bit of research and you look into these things, people that work in these places often remember that first time, the first few times, and they remember them vividly. It's a trauma response, and a lot of people will suffer from that. They'll suffer trauma,
absolutely.
workplace injuries. They'll suffer a lot. They'll bring that home. They'll not be the same person they walked in. There's a Simpsons video that shows them going on a field trip to a slaughterhouse, and you see the kids go
Really?
in, and then you see them come out, and they're like this. Well,
Oh my
that's
gosh.
simply the case, right? We just are able to mask it a little bit better, but yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely horrifying what you see in those places and the fact that you realized it while working in those places. And a lot of people's defenses as well. What do we do with the workers? What are they going to do? I think they'll be a lot happier and healthier doing something else. There's even been research that's come out, going through multiple studies of people who report PTSD, anxiety, depression, especially on the kill floor with the crime rates. I mentioned in my recent video, is the future vegan? So it's absolutely no surprise to me that that's what got you to go vegan is just seeing it in front of your face, the horrors that's happening to these animals, in
Yeah.
order to get products from them as that's what exploitation is. So were there ever moments before having that initial realization where you connected to the animal suffering from the exploitation that you've witnessed? Have you ever connected to the animals suffering like before that at all? Or was that like the
Y-
first time?
Yeah, so it's another great question, Paige. And Um, what I would say is like I had never been really on a farm or anything like that. Like I'd never been introduced to these different animals. Like many others, I just saw them as different. So maybe they were a little bit, weird or something like that. And maybe I just never really thought of them in that context as individuals, or that they had their own desires and wills, and, you know things that they enjoy doing, or wanting to be a part of. I just never really thought of that. There was a couple connections that I did make via, the slaughterhouse, which is bizarre. One time I remember walking down and seeing a pig, or multiple pigs, but one just kind of looked up at me. And the instinct to me was just to go and put my hand down and pet them. Then all of a sudden you have
Right.
the worker with the prod pushing them along, and I'm with a group of inspectors. It's during training, and you have that moment, right? And then the first time I walked into the chicken facility, and I saw this innocent individual who's lifeless, on the slaughterhouse truck. And you feel for them in that moment, and that's when you start to realize the gravity of the situation.
Yes.
Um, and then, so there's two instances when I worked at the chicken slaughterhouse. One chicken actually fell off the top of the truck and hit my helmet and landed on my shoulder, and that was pretty common at that time. like I could feel their claws just grabbing me and just like, they've been, just experienced this massive trauma and someone came and grabbed them and brought them to the hanging area and yeah, and then another time there was one chicken that or hen that escaped. They were just outside the fence line and one of the workers came up looking for because they thought they saw a hen kind of walk out and I saw the hen there and they were eating these little cherries that were sort of on the outside and they asked me if I saw the hen. I said no, I didn't see anybody.
Right.
And
So you already started like the rescuing process before you even knew how to
yeah,
change your actions from stopping this from
yeah,
happening, right?
exactly. And it's just like, what am I going to do in that situation? It's not like that hen's ever had any compassion or ever even put their feet on the ground, let alone ate something different. So, yeah, those are a few moments where I connected, I guess you could say.
Yeah, for sure. It's it's really it hits home hearing someone who walked into these places as a non-vegan and learned what it was through the actual like witnessing it rather than someone saying like, "Oh, you should be vegan because we should be kinder to animals," and having all of the cognitive dissonance and excuses that we come up with to defend our egos before we even think about their suffering, you know? It's like we disconnect from their suffering subconsciously because we're eating them. But you weren't able to do that because it was right in front of you. You
Mm.
were feeling them, seeing them. So,
Yeah, and I would add on, it was just like when people are thinking about these things, it's usually via like a sort of some sort of confrontation, or maybe they do the 3-minute movie challenge, which I feel is very strong and
mhm,
powerful.
mhm.
Or maybe there's an Elwood's moment where people are thinking, okay, of a different animal. So yeah, there's these moments in time where people talk about it and they bring up their guards, so to say. But again, I guess I draw back on my experience, which somewhat can be a wild card for me, but obviously the lived experience isn't. But yeah, I can bring out my experience and hope people can connect that way, maybe to say, look, like there's more to this than just
Yeah,
what you guys perceive from through a video camera or something like that. Imagine that was you on the kill floor. Imagine you had to take the knife and stab that mother cow. So I think that kind of maybe changes people's perspective a little bit,
for
seeing it
sure.
from that angle. Yeah.
It's a very powerful story, and I'm sorry that you had to go through all of that, but I'm
Thank you.
happy that you come out, using that negative experience for positive changes in the world, and it's needed. So, I appreciate your existence
Oh,
and your
thank
story.
you. And yeah, I just hope maybe it will get to other people and maybe others will have the courage to get out and stand up and speak out and share their experiences. And we can do it. I'm living proof. You can get outside of that and move outside of that. And there's no more noble cause. It's very conditional how we treat animals. But if you go to a sanctuary, you know as well as I do, Paige, they come up to you, they nuzzle you, they're curious about you. They just want to get to know you. And why can't we show that courtesy back?
Yes, we do. We think we do, we do in everyday interactions. We see a dog walking down the street with somebody, and we're like, oh, look at that animal. You want to connect with them because we know that, living in our homes, they might feel a little bit disconnected, being a different species, not able to communicate with us. So we take that extra leap to make sure that they're loved and they feel like they're a part of like the family, you know what I mean? But as soon as an animal is on your plate, it's like they're not even in your head. So we need to get that in their heads that it's the same, they deserve the same respect and connection with us because they deserve to live life just like we do and enjoy their life because, you know, why would you want someone to suffer knowing that you're putting them through that suffering when you don't have to? You could connect with them instead, like you naturally do with other animals. It goes against our innate compassion, what we do to animals in this society. And that's why it's changing and it needs to change because people are waking up and it's happening. So it's great to see.
Absolutely.
The next question I was going to ask you is, in what ways did your life change from before the switch? And I was going to ask about like hobbies and interests you had and like maybe some sacrifices you've made for the movement and why that's so important to you and why maybe some of those interests might not even be as appealing anymore because of what you could be doing and the excitement that even comes from that. And but and also like how some socializing and food has changed. But it seems pretty apparent to me that you were already working with animals in kind of in a positive way, trying to make sure that they're being taken care of. But the problem is, while they're being slaughtered, that's kind of an oxymoron, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
So you noticed that, and you took that same time and energy that you were putting towards the animals. If you just take a shift a little bit, you're still kind of doing a similar thing, trying to care for animals. You know what I mean? In your
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's nothing more noble than to stand up for people that literally can't defend themselves, individuals that can't defend themselves, if you don't want to call them people. But they are individuals, right? And they have needs and desires and wants. And how noble is it for us to stand outside our comfort zone and to be able to do that, especially given what they go through? We have this inherent speciesism, and you mentioned it earlier, this view of others. And I do believe it starts from a young age. All the isms, I think, are really related to how we view animals. We learn from such a young age that we're taking these vulnerable beings and doing what we do to them. And in a sense, we're taught to commodify individuals. And so that kind of just sticks with us. And I believe the cognitive dissonance starts then. So yeah, I mean, I take it from that approach. I mean, the first day I walked into the slaughterhouse, I mean, I saw the violence and the suffering that they went through. And I can't imagine ever not doing what I'm doing, uh, standing up or fighting or speaking up about it, considering like, if somebody were to see the things that I saw, if they were to be there on the kill floor and to witness what those poor animals go
Mhm.
through, um, that first day I walked in, I would still, if it was for 10 minutes, I would still make it. If I knew that there was such thing as veganism or animal rights activism, or that you could actually try to stop this and defend this, I would do it. I would do it 1,000 lifetimes over. And regardless of the length that I did it for or worked in that industry, I think once you make that connection, like going to a vigil or something, once you make that connection and that light switch turns on, maybe sometimes people got to go back to a vigil just to get that switch kind of rolling again. Of course I'm going to do it. Unfortunately for me, I was diagnosed with PTSD and bipolar disorder. Back in 2021, I was suffering from severe flashbacks, still do to this day. But fortunate for me is I had a team and I also had therapy and I also had people support me. So I was able to shift, you know, moving into early retirement because that's what I had to do, and make that into, where I can speak about my experience, and that is therapy for me. So I volunteer all my time. I don't really take any money. Sometimes I mean, I get a little bit from Patreon, that might cover the gas or something like that, but I'm not seeking, a lot of money. If there's a big project that I can help work on, I don't really care to get paid if I can survive the way I am, then I'll just stick with that, you know. I think, but I do think we need paid activism. I think it's really important. I think if we could have thousands of us paid at a decent wage, at a good salary, that we can live a long, fruitful life. And if we can get more people out in the streets, why not? We should absolutely do that. You know, there's mega dollars that go to these animal industrial complexes, this industry, subsidies, and they get paid in the trillions, even billions and trillions of dollars, these industries altogether. And so we need to combat it. And maybe, sure, there might be some bad actors here and there, but regardless, you know, that's going to happen in any industry. I still say, you know, if you can't make it out in the streets, if you can't get out there, and you want to support, go and find activists like Paige, go and find activists like Mel and Steve or Cliff Grant or David Rams or all these incredible vegan gays. Like there's all these incredible activists out there, and I'm probably missing so many, so I'm sorry I'm doing that, but there's just so many out there that you know, would appreciate the help and the support, and then they can be out on the streets every day.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you do for work now? Since you obviously don't do what you were doing before.
Yeah. So I'm on disability from retiring early due to the
Oh,
trauma that I witnessed. Yeah.
wow,
So
okay.
yeah, retired early. I worked in a government job after that government job, and yeah, I couldn't concentrate. I was suffering from severe flashbacks, and yeah, it was a tough time in my life, and I don't wish anybody to go through it because it's a long process and stuff like that. But I had a great therapist, and they helped me like reevaluate and look at things from maybe a different lens. Maybe I can share that information to people as you know, the animals in the past aren't suffering anymore. And so that helped me put into context what's happening today and what I can fight for today. So, um,
Yes.
yeah, that's what, you know, covers me now, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing about trauma, right? It is meant to force us to deal with it, to deal with an issue, because trauma happens, that means that there's a problem that needs to be solved. If something happens where you're in pain, you're meant to fix it. Our body's letting us know that something's wrong, that something needs to be done.
Yeah.
And so you putting that energy of your PTSD and your trauma, what happened, what you've witnessed, and putting it towards it to fix it is an expression, and that heals you as you heal them, right? As you help heal the world, you're healing yourself because that's
Yeah.
the root of it is those what happens in those places. That's great that you get to do that, that you get to put so much time into it. It's great. It's not great that you went through it, but the problem is being solved and we need more people helping us, right? So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
how did you first get involved in activism and well, I know what motivated you, but what is there anyone who in particular who motivated like a particular type of activism where you started and what you do now, like that kind of journey?
Yeah. It's great questions. So I went to, so I asked people in my kind of circles about activism. I said, you know, I worked in it and I have this powerful story, I think. Maybe I should go talk about it. Maybe I should let people know what I saw. And that's, you know, sort of how I started thinking about these things. But the group of people that I was with said, no, don't go do it. Do not talk about it. And so, because I think their idea was just don't tell people what to do with their food choices. And you know, a few of them were vegan, a few of them are still vegan, plant-based. I'm just kidding, if they're watching, but Um, but their idea was, that lead by example sort of thing. So,
Hmm.
I kind of thought that at first, but then I kind of researched, what are people doing to fight this or talk about it or whatever, and I found that there were vigils. So I lived in London, Ontario, Canada at the time, and I decided to go to one. I thought, I'll go, but I'm not going to say where I work because if I say where I worked, I'm going to get beat up or something bad's going to happen. And
Oh,
so,
really?
oh
You
yeah,
thought that?
I was
Aw.
scared. I was scared.
No, we
Well,
welcome you with open arms. We want to hear
well,
your
that's
stories.
that's exactly what happened. And
Yeah.
um, the strange thing was, is I was invited into the community, and everybody was so warm and nice and kind, and you have these preconceived notions, preconceived ideas about being an activist, or preconceived ideas about being vegan or plant-based, or how this is going to affect you. And the more you kind of look into these things and just get a little bit outside that comfort zone, the more you start to see that you're developing as a person, you're growing as a person, and in fact, you can maybe change the world for many, many lives. And so I did that, and then I went to a couple of them, but I always wanted to try the street outreach, and I was like, because I was
Hmm.
watching the videos, the street outreach people, and I thought I think I can do that, and so I grew the courage and ended up actually getting really inspired by someone named Amy Serrano. She's in BC, Canada, real hero for the animals. And, if you heard her story, I mean, what a courageous person. And
I
it
need
was
to
an
look
honor to
into
meet
it.
her. Yeah, it was an honor to meet her a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, we all got arrested at the same time, but you know, that was for the animals and a good cause. But yeah, she inspired me just that little bit more. And then, you see a couple speeches and you're just like ready to go. And so that's when I jumped on board and did the street outreach and met someone named Jen, who is a huge proponent of how I um grew as an activist. She encouraged me to join as a organizer. I had no idea what I was doing, but she said, you just grab the equipment, bring it. I'll take care of everything else. And yeah, she helped encourage me to really get active as well and share my story and help me with a lot of other stuff in my life. So yeah, there's so many people I'm grateful for to help me get involved. And there's not one particular action that I can go over the other. I mean, I've done them all. I've been in rib fests, I've been in shopping centers, I've been in malls, I've been in rib fests. We did Meet the Victims, gone did a little undercover stuff. So we've done it all, a group of us, and I've landed on We the Free now as an ambassador, and I've
I'm about to
worked with
start a
them.
chapter with them.
Oh, are you? Nice,
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, it's so incredible, Paige. I like we can talk later about it, but um, we started in October 2021 with a handful of teams, and now we have over 150 teams, and that's globally. And we're just continuing to grow. The 3 Minute Movie Challenge has just been a game
Wow.
changer. So we have people that, they're immersed in the video footage, they're watching it, and the conversations aren't as combative because it's they're able to walk in or leave whenever they want. We let them know it's graphic, and we have a children's version, and so yeah, we've been growing. It's such a strong team, so it's been
It
wonderful.
is. You mentioned that you have a group of friends who are vegan but not active, saying that they would prefer to lead by example rather than what they said, forcing their opinions on others or telling people what
Well,
to eat.
yeah, I
And
guess. I would say that there's a couple long-term vegans that I know. Um, they've they've decided just to lead by example. They have always supported me afterwards, after the fact. And I think they're just kind of living out their own life. I don't really see them too often or talk to them that much anymore, but I wish them the best. I know maybe subtly they did have some activism stripes in them. One of them had a fuck for t-shirt, and so maybe that, maybe there was a little bit that rubbed off me there. So also with what was I going to say? With some of the others, they weren't fully vegan, or maybe they were vegetarian. So I don't think they really viewed an injustice, or they still view animals as commodities. So I don't know that if I put them in the same breath as, say, even somebody who is plant-based for the environment or diet or whatever. I still think there are ethical qualms with them, and hopefully one day they'll snap out of that.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think that leading by example is a great way to show that it's possible and practical to be vegan, as many people try to deny. Um, but I do believe, me personally, I think that it doesn't really take away anything from our lives to do a quick repost on a separate account on social media, or like you said, wearing shirts, even just that, being comfortable talking about it or bringing it up when it does come up, taking that little extra step that might be uncomfortable at first can become really comfortable. And it's, if you create a separate account and not attach your name to it, people don't even have to know. You know what I mean?
100%.
So I just like to encourage people who are kind of in that boat. Like it could take like 5 seconds to just repost something real quick. And even if it's just like vegans that follow your account, mostly other people see it. The algorithm wants to spread it to everybody. Some percentage of non-vegans are seeing that. And just people seeing the word vegan, just people knowing that more and more of us exist,
Hmm.
kind of get it in their brains that, you know what I mean, this is something that's growing, this is something that's possible, this is something that is a thing. You know what I mean? Most people didn't even know what veganism was 10 years ago. And 5 years ago, we didn't have, oh my gosh, a third of the options in grocery stores and restaurants. So change is happening fast, you know what I mean? Not fast
I
enough, of course, but
I
that's why I
could
like to encourage people to get active.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I have a friend, Vegan Pixie Warrior. If you go on her channel, she shows all these little, she calls them bite-sized vegan bits, Rebecca, and they're just little things you can do, and they're very low entry, very easy to get started. That's why, even groups like We the Free. If you're not comfortable speaking to the public, you can hold a sign, you can help set up the TVs, you can give out the prizes. So we want everybody included. And like you said, it's not really difficult to post, and share outside of, even if you don't want to show your face and stuff like that. It's very easy to do, and I would encourage people to go to a vigil, maybe watch a documentary, maybe really see this as the injustice that it is. Um, I think too, a lot of people will get caught up in, this cool idea that I'm not eating animals and that's just enough. Well, I would say that maybe isn't enough. If we were to look at it in the context of, if that was our family member, and I'm not saying that that's the equation there, but in a sense, if that was our dog, if that was our cat, our companions, we wouldn't leave the slaughterhouse. We would still be there. We would not leave, and we would ensure that this ended. So
hmm
we tend to forget about the victim's perspective, and that we can go home and watch Netflix. They're trapped in cages. They're living in their own feces. They're living a miserable life, and they're going to be sent to be killed. So there is an importance and emphasis that we got to place here. And like you said, if we do a post, and let's say, you see 100 views and you think, well, that's not a lot, but imagine, and it's been said many times, imagine 100 people were just stacked next to you. That's 100 people. If you spark even just one person, you could take 5 to 10,000 animals outside of the equation. That's the average, I guesstimate, right?
Yes,
You could take them all outside of that equation, and who knows, maybe you hit that one person that you inspire deeply, that could be an influencer, that could change the game, that could
exactly.
go out and change people's hearts and minds. So there's always, I've met so many great people and their stories are incredible. I met somebody who found a leaflet on a table, and she went on to do some incredible work for animal rights. So, you never know what that little thing can do, what that one different thing can do. And as long as we view it from the victim's perspective, and as long as we kind of isolate, or maybe not isolate, but just remember that we're an abolitionist movement. We're against, commodification of others. And so we can remember those little things and not get too worked up about it. Sharing a post is the least we can do, I find. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I leave one of my little business cards with a QR and a summary of how many animals are impacted between each individual person, how many they could save, the impact that it makes to you as an individual,
Amazing.
just for you. And it says, go vegan today, join the movement now, choose cruelty free, you know what I mean? And I would leave them on tables or in bathrooms everywhere I go. I give them to my grocer who is checking me out, and they're seeing what I eat, you know what I mean, as they scan it. So everywhere I go, I try to speak up because if it was me in their position, that's what I would want others to be doing for me. And I love that you told me the story of somebody who had picked up a leaflet and that's what sparked their journey onto veganism. And, of learning all of these things, learning how to change, how easy it is. And it doesn't take anything from us, you know what I mean, to just choose compassion, and nonviolence. So, now that really puts in my head like keep doing that because sometimes I won't leave them on the tables as much, like, you know what I mean, or sometimes I'll question myself like are people really going to pick this up, you know what I mean, having a conversation is seems so much more like asking questions, getting people to think, you know what I mean, than someone just finding a card and actually picking it up. But I love that you just told me that. So that's
Well, yeah,
great.
it's great. I mean, I leave them in tip jars.
Oh
Um,
really?
yeah,
That's a great
absolutely.
place.
Some people will go to like a coffee shop, and they'll ask them their name. They'll say vegan, and so when they're shouting out their name, they got to yell out vegan. Sometimes they don't respond right away, so somebody's yelling out vegan. So I was thinking libraries. You can go put them in the books and all these different things. So many different crafty ways of doing it. Yeah.
For sure, definitely. So, what do you think is the root of the mental disconnection from animal suffering when it comes to what we use them for as a society compared to human suffering? Like, what do you think is that the root of that cultural thing where it makes people difficult even when it's right in front of them. You know what I mean? Some people they watch it on the screens and they're like, they're not suffering or who cares? All these different excuses that don't line up or make any sense, but it comes out of our mouths and we think it makes sense until we make that connection with their suffering. Do you have any thoughts about the root of why that happens?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's egos obviously in there that plays a factor for sure, 100%. I think, we've all been caught, as a kid doing something wrong. And so our first defense is, to fight back or say I didn't do it or lie about it. So I think there's that. It's obviously this cognitive dissonance that's kind of because if you think about it, you really got to own up to it. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're part of this, think about the consequences of that. You are literally saying that you're paying for these animals to go through massive suffering, torture, violence. And what does that say about you as a person, right? So there's going to be people that think, well, I'm not a bad person. And I think that's what we try to point out in Street Outreach. We know you're not a bad person. but your actions aren't aligning with that. We know you don't want to hurt animals, but maybe you just need to be educated and learn a little bit more and actually take it seriously. I think social media is our best friend and our worst enemy at the same time. I think it's been tremendous for our animal rights cause. I think we're going to see probably some statistics at some point come out that say, wow, social media has really blown up and put this in front of people. But I also think, too, people have watched a lot of things on TV. Maybe they play video games, and it all becomes sort of um, sort of a minuscule issue when they see violence on TV or they've grown up with that, so they don't directly see the impact.
Exactly.
If they were face to face, if they were, this is what I say in some street outreach. I'm like, have you been to a sanctuary? No. So you don't even know who you're eating. You don't know the individuals themselves. And so if people were to be at a sanctuary or at a slaughterhouse, to see the individuals, to see their eyes, I think we'd have a whole different, game. We'd have a different game, you know.
Absolutely. It's so easy to remember like National Geographic, watching that as a kid and how we had to disconnect from that. We didn't want to feel their pain while we learned about the natural world, what terrible things happen in the wild for animals to
Mhm.
survive. And so it's easy for us to go, well, that's animals, that's different. You know what I mean? Their pain and suffering is okay because it happens in the world naturally. A lot of people make that excuse, and it kind of like sets our mind up to divide something that there's no real reality in dividing those things because they suffer and feel the same exact pain that a human would. I mean, humans can be eaten by tigers too. And hopefully you would want to help that not happen to them.
Unless if it was a
So,
hunter, of course. No, I'm just kidding. We don't promote we're nonviolent, right? Yes.
yeah.
But I guess one analogy I do use is um, it's a hot day. There's a dog caught in the car. They might die as a result. Are you going to smash the window? Um, Everyone's going to say yes. Replace that with a pig. Replace them with a pig. Would you do the same? Most people, yes. Some people,
Hmm.
I don't know. So where's the difference there? Where's the bias there? And I think that's
Hmm.
through,
Hmm.
subsidies and cultural norms and us being brainwashed to believe that, these individuals that we've never met, that we've never hung out with, that we've never spent time with, that we're going to put them through this. So, yeah.
Exactly. So you connected with the animals like from the beginning when you were there, right? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, like
How
I
long did
think
you work there, Ken? Did you say that?
so it's a bit vague for me because I became really ill. A lot of workers they suffer things like pathogens. So they'll contract pathogens like E. coli, Salmonella, Campylobacter, which I contracted, and I ended up in the hospital. I ended up with a blood clot in my lung.
Mm,
So yeah, I was almost goner.
wow.
And
Just
so
for working in these places, that's
yeah,
insane.
and so most workers will contract a pathogen. Most
Oh,
workers will get sick. It's the fact that they don't report it because they're worried they might get kicked out of the country.
wow.
So they'll avoid telling people that they feel ill because if they can't make it to work, well, then what's the point of allowing them to stay in the US or Canada or whatever country it is? And so, yeah, it was about 2 to 6, sorry, about 6 years I worked in a slaughter. So that was primarily at a chicken plant. And so my role was to monitor the trucks coming in, um, assessing the transportation times, viewing the truck, and get this, if there was a certain percentage of dead birds on the truck, that would spark an investigation. It wasn't each individual. It was a number, a percentage. So when I first started, it was 5%. So imagine 500 dead
Wow.
chickens, I would have to go and then do a an investigation. So that would involve pictures, that would involve me taking the birds and putting them in a garbage bag and bringing them
Oh,
to a veterinarian so they could assess them, so to say, to figure out why they froze to death or, they died due to heart attacks because of the heat. And so, like all these dumb things. But the thing is, I only went to court 2 times in my entire career, and I documented hundreds of those. So that was primarily one of my jobs for a little while. Also online inspection, processing. And so, yeah, I was in that atmosphere for a while until I became really ill. I was suffering from asthma and I couldn't breathe down on these lines, and I was really, yeah, suffering myself. So yeah, that's where I worked primarily for about that time. I was off work obviously with the blood clots in my lungs, and I had to stay off work and be on these warfarin, I guess you call it blood thinners, and I had to get injections in my stomach every day and blood work every day, and that was a long time I had to go through that in my
oh
20s.
my goodness. I had no
And
idea that these things
yeah,
happened.
yeah,
Like
I
I knew that
mean,
we had like pandemic breakouts, but I didn't know that was so common. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, it's very common. And of course, these workers aren't, they're not university educated people. They're marginalized. They're minorities, immigrants, refugees, and they're
Mm-hmm.
taken from these countries that, you know, might not be the best. Maybe there's war going on. And so it's a privilege for them to
Mm.
come to the country, but they're bound by these contracts. I was actually in a conversation with somebody about this type of stuff and how these contracts are forcing workers to stay in these jobs. If they want to pursue other employment outside of them, they are kicked out of the country. That's part of their condition of employment. So
Wow, I had
they,
no idea.
yeah, yeah. So literally they're exploited themselves. It's coercion, I do plan on doing a video about it and maybe sharing more about that in the future. So
Yeah, that's powerful because it shows like even the people who are doing this themselves, they don't want to do this. Otherwise, they wouldn't have to make laws like that. And
yeah. Imagine
oh
your
my
kid came to you
gosh.
and shook on your leg and said, Mom, Dad, I want to work in the slaughterhouse when I grew up. You would seek immediate therapy for them, right? So
Yes,
yeah, it's not like that at all, right? Yeah.
of course. So, how did you think and talk about animals on the job compared to outside of work before you were vegan?
Yeah, so we had a number of inspectors that I feel cared. I saw some employee throw a chicken once because they scratched them, and
Hmm.
I yelled at him. I like, you're not supposed to do that in the job, but I yelled at him for doing that. What are you doing? Why are you doing that? And the dichotomy of that is he got down on his hands and knees and said, please don't tell on me. So then I'm put in a situation where if I tell on him, he might be getting deported. So all these
Wow.
dichotomies come up in these places, and speed's the name of the game. If you're an inspector and you stop a line, you're having a foreman coming in yelling at their top of their lungs because their job might be on the line too. So you have
Yeah.
all these factors, and if you stop a line, you have to be 100% sure an animal's suffering because of that. And so there was a number of times where a group of us inspectors band together to try to make a difference, I guess, in a welfareist mindset. You
Right.
know, I don't
Okay.
I don't feel that way anymore, but like if back then if crates were being dropped from 12, 15 feet, just slammed on the ground, we had inspectors that tried to make it so that two people would have to set the crates down. So it's little things like that, but you know, it, I don't feel like inherently people want to see animals get hurt.
Hmm.
But what does happen when people do work in these environments, if you're killing one, two, three, you're starting to lose that empathy. And there's a bit of data to show that you can definitely move into psychopathy with that. So you
Mhm.
lose yourself and you become, that monster in the movie, so to say. So
Extremely common. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, Definitely. It's you were already concerned with unnecessary harm to animals. You just didn't understand the extent that you could go to in that work. Yeah. It makes a
Yeah,
lot
and
of
I feel
sense.
like a lot of inspectors did and a lot of employees did. Like I get comments sometimes, even from people that are still working in this industry, saying you're doing a good job. So the cognitive dissonance is wild there, and people just probably feel trapped and they can't get outside of the system. Yeah, it's not a good situation.
Of course not. So you shared a lot of insights and stories from that topic. Is there any last thing that you would like to say about specifically your time working in the slaughterhouse like field and things that you've witnessed people do to animals, or anything that really stuck with you that you'd like to share?
Yeah, generally, like when I do a podcast with vegans, and I know it's going to be a primarily vegan or plant-based audience, I don't get too much into detail because I feel like a number of us been traumatized enough probably
Mm-hmm.
from some of the things we witnessed that made us probably go into get into animal rights and active.
Mm-hmm.
So I do, yeah, obviously like almost every 5 minutes, every hour, something like that, I do think of something bad. So
Wow.
yeah, it's often, yeah. It makes sense, right? It makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody working in that, if you see that much violence, that can't go away. I mean, you can try to take pills or alcohol, drugs. You can turn to a number of things. Um, I would say like myself, I turn to a number of things in my life to try to get away from any of those thoughts. And
Mm-hmm.
um, what I would say to anybody working in this industry is to try to get help, try to seek therapy, trauma therapy specifically. I would say anybody working in this industry that you can get out. It's not worth the money and what it's going to do to you psychologically. Get out now. Even if you have to struggle for a bit, it's not worth any type of money or disease that you can pick up. What I would say to people that are activists, I don't want to traumatize you, but I do want to motivate you. I got out of it. I think if if you're looking at where you are in your last few days of life and you're looking back and you think of what you've accomplished in the world, um, I guess what I see at the end of the day when my lights start to go out is I want to know that I put a dent in this industry and I
Mm-hmm.
want to know that I made a difference. So we can search for cars, bigger houses,
Yes.
commodities, whatever we think is going to satisfy us. But at the end of the day, it's like, what do you want to look at back in your lifetime and say you accomplished? Do you want to just be the person that went vegan, like, eventually probably everybody else will, and eventually or plant-based, whatever you want to say, that just kind of followed the crowd kind of thing? Or do you
Mm-hmm.
want to make a difference, an impact, something that's going to fulfill your life and that will drive you for the rest of your life? Get involved, get active, be the difference, be the change maker. We need more of us. We need dozens of us, thousands of us. We need a movement that's strong and we need to get out there and be active for the animals. I've seen things that I can't even comprehend that I've seen and that I witnessed, and I can't believe that people are going through. And if we can just change that, if we can get one person to change it, two people to change, that's going to be the life of so many. So please get out there, get active, and however I can support you, let me know. Get involved with We the Free. We're an incredible organizations. We're built around community, and we love to support everybody. And yeah, I think that's my little pitch there. So
Yeah, that's great. That's absolutely true. Perfectly said. I mean, I remember sitting in class in like fifth grade, learning about, how our country used to have slaves and how we had to work really hard just to vote as women. And I felt great respect for the people who changed that. And I was just trying to imagine, like, how could people actually do that? You know what I
Right?
mean? Like, everyone just be okay with it. And then after I went vegan, it just clicked, that light switch came on, and I was able to see that I am one of those people, and that now I have a chance to be a part of one of those revolutions that make a tremendous difference for the most individuals that there will be a difference for on this earth ever. It's absolutely
Absolutely.
incredible, and it drives me every single day. How soon do you think we will see a vegan world? Do you have any predictions, and why?
Um, I like how my lights are kind of getting dimmer and I'm looking crazy. So if you look at like, I know a lot of people are probably feel down about how long it might take us
Yes.
to get there and whatnot. I don't see it that way. I look at my own projections and think I was able to change. Of course, I feel like maybe it might be a harder barrier for some people to change than myself. But if I can change, anybody can. And the second point is, if you look at the grocery stores and you were mentioning the supermarkets and stuff like that, if you look at how many
Hmm.
more plant-based products year by year that are getting sold, and like people can go by how many vegans there are. We just don't have the money to produce the study that would show that there's a lot more vegans than we know. And a lot of people say, oh, we're only 1%, 2%. I don't believe that. I believe we're
There's no
much
way.
more.
Yeah,
Um, and some people say, oh, we need to go by the data on that. And that's fine. That can be their opinion. That's my opinion. Um, but what I would say is you go to the grocery store, you look at the projections that they had, the estimates that they had for plant-based products being sold, every year it goes way above. So I think we're going to see dairy 2030 gone. I think 2040, 2050 is probably my best guess as to when. I think it'll be sooner. I hope it'll be sooner. I want to be a part of that change.
yep,
But if it's my last breath, and I think probably a number of people feel this way, we'll get it done. And like there's no option. So yeah,
for for sure. I believe the same thing. I think that by 2050, the world will be mostly plant-based, and I hope that by 2075 we'll have all of the legislation in place, and you know, and it'll be a vegan world. I truly believe in that. I really do. Because once, I mean, even close to half of the people are going to have to talk about it at that point. It's going to be a huge thing. And
absolutely.
so, yeah, it's that momentum, right? We're building that momentum, and we're seeing now how fast things can explode with that momentum. So there's no stopping it. So
100%.
yeah. The last question I have for you is, what is your favorite food? What do you eat
Oh
as a
my
vegan? What are your favorite things
gosh.
to eat as a vegan?
So that's probably one of the hardest questions I've been asked. So I've been asked before, and the thing is, I don't discriminate against food.
Yeah,
So anything that you put in front of me, I'm gonna eat.
I'm the same
Um,
way.
I think it's just like what I don't like, but there's not a lot I don't like. So like literally, if I had a new meal every day, I could go with that. Like there was a time where I just ate burritos. I ate like burritos every single day because I get into these
I've been doing
addictive
that recently. It's funny you
phases.
say that. Yeah, me too. I'm
See,
eating burritos right now. I'm
you
making
know.
cashew cheese for them.
Damn. See? And then there's other times where I don't know, I just get into these habits of eating certain things. So I don't have a favorite food. I love them all.
Me too. I asked that question, but I probably wouldn't be able to pick myself.
On a
But
desert island, would you,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, on a desert island, my favorite thing would be to hallucinate and make the hallucinations the best that I could as I die because I'm not killing anyone. Okay.
Absolutely. Same here.
Not that every vegan has to be that way, but thank you so much for listening to the Peaceful Podcast. We hope you enjoyed connecting with us and learned some valuable insights along the way. I cannot wait to hear your thoughts in the comments and reviews. And until next time,